Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. The Shift of Shadows. Episode 4. Violet's POV. When I woke up, I immediately had the sensation of being too hot. In those few seconds it took my brain to catch up to my memory, I panicked. Reacting on instinct, I rolled to my side, throwing the heavy thing on my torso off. At the same time, I aimed a sharp kick, propelling myself up and out of the bed. Ow! What? As fast as I had attacked, my hands flew up to cover my mouth, my eyes wide in horror. Oh! I'm so sorry. Jasper was sitting on the floor on the opposite side of the bed, rubbing his back, a confused and dazed look on his face. What? He grouched. I'm sorry. I'm not used to having someone sleep in bed with me, and I panicked and I stared at his grumpy face, still half asleep, and I started giggling uncontrollably. This is funny to you? Sorry. I can't help it. I stuttered while giggling. Can't say I've ever been woken up quite like that. Unable to talk, my giggles turned into laughter. He gave me a dirty look, only adding to my amusement. Standing up, Jasper crawled back into bed, face planting into the pillow. Don't be mad, please. No. You're mean. His voice was muffled. I climbed in beside him, resting my head beside his. A goofy smile was still on my face. What would make you feel better? I teased. Nothing. I am utterly heartbroken, he said dramatically. I giggled again, but leaned my head over to kiss his shoulder. He didn't say anything, so I gave him another kiss further up. Sparks danced across my lips, turning my previous fun. I kissed his ear and below his short sideburn. Then I tapped his head. If you don't turn over, I can't give you a proper kiss. Jasper didn't move, and I sighed. Fine then. I flopped back onto my side of the bed. As soon as my head landed on my pillow, Jasper struck. In the blink of an eye, he was on top of me, his legs pinning my arms to my sides, and mischievous glint in his eyes. Payback time! He exclaimed, and then he started tickling me. I squirmed, and writhed under him, breathless gasps and laughs coming from me. If there was one thing I didn't want him to know, it was how ticklish I was. Stop! Please! I half laughed. Jasper, stop! I give! You're going to make me pee! I squealed. Say uncle! 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 Laughing with me, he finally released me from the tickle torture, though he didn't move from his position. I mock glared at him, pouting. Now who's the mean one? Don't be mad! He quoted me. What would make you feel better? He leaned down, hovering over me before I answered. His silver-grey eyes were shining, I could easily get lost in them. Hala purred in my head. Slowly, I raised one hand from my side, brushing some of his hair off his forehead. Our surroundings melted away, I was only focused on my mate above me right now. Jasper's gaze dropped to my lips briefly, before meeting my eyes again. I could read the unspoken question, but it didn't feel like words needed to spoken at this moment. Grabbing the back of his neck, I pulled him down to me, our lips meeting in a passionate kiss. Jasper was holding himself over me carefully, putting none of his weight on me, yet I could feel all of him. His scent was overpowering, drowning me, and I was happy to die like this if I had to. The sparks from our bond were stronger, radiating from my lips into my throat, down to my stomach and spreading throughout my body. The hand on his neck moved to his shoulder, down his arm, until he entwined our fingers on the bed. Out of breath, I pulled away, but Jasper's lips simply moved to my cheek, my neck, my collarbone, and back up again. He repeated the circuit 3 times, my breathing becoming more and more erratic with each pass. The 4th time, he went even lower. However, this felt different. I felt like I needed him. It felt like I had an itch I couldn't scratch, and I wiggled my hips under him. "You can tell me to stop," he whispered. His voice had changed, it was rougher than I'd ever heard it before. The sound only turned me on more. "No. No, don't stop." Contrary to my words, he paused, looking back at my face. I had no idea what my face portrayed right then, but whatever he saw there gave him the courage to keep going. Tentatively, he brought his free hand to my waist, softly tracing his fingers over the exposed skin there. I tried to focus on my breathing as he made his way up my torso. It was such an odd feeling, someone else doing it. Odd, but so good. I could feel he was being careful, trying not to push me too far. But I wanted more. Releasing his hand, I pulled away from our kiss. Instantly, his hand left my skin, a worried expression taking his features. Now, Jasper looked at me with a renewed heat in his eyes, his breath hitching. "Vi. I'm fine. I don't want you to stop, not yet." "Well, if that's what my girl wants." He grinned, sitting up again. His eyes didn't leave mine. Didn't know how to express what I wanted, and I didn't know how to ask. Was it okay to just ask? I was new to all of this. Would he think I was stupid? What's wrong? I hadn't realized I'd been biting my lip until he pulled it away from my teeth. How do I? Can I? I blew out a frustrated breath. "I'm not sure how to." "Vi." He bent down to give me a kiss. "Is this making you uncomfortable?" "No. Exactly the opposite actually." "Okay. Just tell me what you're thinking." He cupped my cheek. Can I tell you what I want?" I asked quickly. I could feel my cheeks burning from embarrassment, but Jasper smiled. "Of course. We may be mates, but I can't read your mind. You can tell me what you like, and what you don't like, and if at any point you say stop, I will. That's how this works, by communicating with each other." He caressed my face softly. "Besides that, you won't know what you like unless you try new things. All you have to do is ask." "Okay." I returned his smile. "So, what do you want?" "I want you to use your mouth." I whispered the last part. "As you wish, lady." His words were playful, but his eyes sparked. He started out by kissing my mouth again, repeating his previous actions of slowly moving down. I closed my eyes. His tongue flicked out, licking my bud before taking it in his mouth. To my surprise, a soft moan came from my lips. This felt better than his hands. Now he was using his teeth to tug on me gently, his breath on my skin. Just as I was getting used to the feeling. "Vi. Can I touch you?" It took me a second to grasp his meaning, but not long to decide my answer. I wanted more of what he was making me feel. "Yes." I breathed. Jasper didn't let up with his mouth, just moving his hand to my shorts. "Feel good?" "Yes." He repeated the action several times, until I spread my legs wider. It was a silent invitation to keep going, and he did. My head fell to the side to give him better access. "Oh. His movements sped up a little, his mouth finding mine again. I continuously moaned into his mouth, his tongue slipping in and caressing mine. A small voice in my mind told me I was right to wait for this. I couldn't imagine this with anyone else. Jasper was making me come apart, slowly, but kindly, going at my speed. And I knew how excited he was, I could feel it. "Can I go further?" he asked. "Yes." A second later, he started slow, "It felt so good, oh. Goddess. Tell me if you want me to stop." He reminded me. But I didn't want him to. This felt so amazing, so right. It may not have been how I imagined my first time, but did it matter? I'd promised myself to wait for my mate, for him. And I had. He was the only person in the world I wanted, the only one who could make me feel like this. And clearly, he wanted me too. So why wait any longer? I wanted to give him as much pleasure he was giving me. I was ready. "Jasper." He halted, my tone different from before. I smiled up at him, assuring him I was fine. "I want more," I told him. His eyebrows furrowed. "Vi, this is already." I stopped him with a kiss. "I'm ready, Jasper." Are you sure?" "Yes. I want you." Instead of eagerly jumping into it like I expected, he took several minutes searching my face, trying to find any hint that I didn't want this like I said. Finally, he leaned in to kiss my forehead. "I'll take it slow. I promise." "Okay." I didn't want to get ahead of myself, but now that we were on the same page, I let him take the lead. His fingers started moving again, faster this time. "I need to make sure you're ready, babe. This is the easiest way. Fine by me." He chuckled, his movements increasing again. My hands gripped the bedsheets as I moaned, my hips beginning to move, trying to match his rhythm. Surprising me. He never stopped his hand. "Oh, oh. Jasper. Keep going." I was lost in a wave of pleasure that I hoped never ended. Helpless moans escaped me, I was completely at his mercy right now, and I loved it. I was so close, and then I did. It was better than any time by myself before, so much more intense. It was great, and yet, I wasn't fully satisfied. I looked to see Jasper standing at the end of the bed. I gulped. Loudly. Oh. I was sure my anxiety was clear on my face. Jasper only smiled at me, crawling back into bed. "Still want to?" he asked. I set my expression. I wanted him, I wanted this. Mom had prepared me a long time ago, my talk was more than where babies come from. She made sure I knew what to expect my first time. She gave me all the information on consent and respecting your body. Transmitted diseases weren't an issue for werewolves, they didn't affect us thanks to our incredible immune systems, but she still made sure I was educated on that too. Still, I honestly never imagined my first time would be with someone so big. Even though Jasper's size was intimidating, I pushed my worry aside and nodded. He wouldn't hurt me, not on purpose. I trusted him. "Joining me again, it's going to hurt," he said. "I can't help that. I know. I'm not an expert, but I heard that breathing helps. Deep breaths. Okay. Ready? Yes." He began to push in. He only got the tip in when I winced, stopping. It wasn't so bad, but it stung a bit. Following his advice, I took a deep breath. It did help a little. "I'm good," I whispered. We repeated this several times. He would push, I would grimace, and he would stop. Eventually, I started to get frustrated. My insecurities were starting to get the better of me right now, and I felt angry tears brim my eyes. Vi. I'm sorry. I groaned. Do you want to stop? No. No. I just feel so dumb right now. This is probably the worst for you. His eyes softened. This is far from the worst. I promised you I would go slow, I know it hurts. I wish it didn't hurt for you. But already, you feel amazing. I just want you to get past the pain, so I can show you the pleasure. His words made me 1,000 times better. Okay. You can keep going. A few tries later, I felt him hit the resistance. He must have felt it too, because he rested his forehead against mine, his hand coming up to cup my cheek again. Remember to breathe, he whispered. And then he pushed through. A short scream sounded, before I gulped in a breath, holding it. My eyes were squeezed shut, my hands clenched in fists above my head. Breath Violet. I did, taking deep breaths, letting them out against his cheek. I'm going to start moving, it will help the pain, okay? K. I grunted. The stinging was worse as he moved, my insides throbbing. Open your eyes, Vi. I did as he asked. Jasper was moving slowly back and forth, his hand now at the back of my neck. I whimpered slightly, and he planted a kiss on the tip of my nose. Focus on me, babe. Just me. I'm here with you, right here. Jasper continued to talk to me, kissing away my silent tears. As he was talking, the pain changed. It dulled, becoming easier to bear. Now that it wasn't clouding my mind, I began to feel a little bit of pleasure. Oh, my! I breathed. Better. He grinned. The sight added to the rising enjoyment, my heart squeezing. The man above me was dazzling. My eyes traveled down his torso, mesmerized by the sight of our bodies connected as one. The sight made me even more aroused, and made it even easier for him. The more he moved inside me, the more the pain dissipated, until it was gone. All that was left was the euphoria I'd heard so much about. Jasper felt incredible inside me, filling me, even though I wasn't sure how. Part of me still thought he was too big, but our mixed breaths, quick kisses and bodies moving together were proof we fit together perfectly. It feels good. I whispered. Faster. Please. My hands clenched again as he willingly obliged my request. My body was shattering from the inside out, owned by my mate, and the way he claimed me. I gripped his shoulder, unintelligible sounds dripping from my lips. All I felt was pure bliss. Jasper groaned. Jasper. Oh. I love it when you say my name. I want. What, babe? Faster. Jasper, faster. Using my grip on his shoulder, I pulled myself up, my lips at his ear. Faster, harder. I want to feel you, Jasper, I want to feel what you can give me. My words triggered something in him. He sat up, taking my knees and bending them towards my chest. Then he started thrusting, without mercy. My moans turned into screams, and I thanked the goddess the walls were soundproof. Oh! Yes! Yes! Oh goddess! It was unimaginable, out of this world. Jasper! We were both breathing heavily when he finally done. Laying beside me, my mate pulled me into his arms. Wow! I mumbled. Yeah. No kidding. So that's what they call No. Jasper tilted. That's what they call making love. Sophia's POV last night was awkward. It was very clear that Garrett wanted more than just sleep, but I said no. I wanted us to build a foundation of trust again, before anything physical happened. More so, I wanted him to trust me again. Last night was the first time we'd slept in the same bed since we dated. It all felt familiar to me, yet strange and new. Garrett wasn't the same guy I knew before, he was much more closed off, less talkative. The guilt wouldn't leave, because I knew it was because of me. Because of what I did. If I had to, I'd spend the rest of my life trying to make it up to him. The bigger problem right now was dealing with his hatred for Jasper. Even I was surprised when he turned out to be Violet's mate, who saw that coming. Not me. Certainly not Violet. However, they seemed to fit well together. On the other hand, Garrett didn't seem to be able to get over it. He vented for over an hour before we finally went to bed about his sister's mate. I listened attentively, but not replying much. I feared he would twist my words, believing I had feelings for Jasper or something. It was a likely possibility, because most of his arguments were dull. In my opinion, he needed to accept this turn of events, and move on. Everyone else had. This morning, he was in a better mood, if still a bit grumpy. He'd gone for breakfast with his parents, in the cafeteria today as nobody could get up to the 4th floor, while I showered and got dressed. I picked out a navy blue dress with sunflowers printed on it and white sandals. Grabbing my curler, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, thinking. I didn't know how to explain it, but ever since the night of the party, I'd been feeling off. I chalked it up to guilt, and shame mostly. But for over a year now, I never could shake the feeling, could never get that night out of my head. I remembered dancing with Garrett, admiring him in his button-down black shirt, his hair wild and messy, and in need of a cut soon. We'd laughed, chatted with our friends, drank a little. We'd even snuck off to catch a private, intimate moment outside. I remembered having to use the bathroom. And the next thing I knew, I was in bed with Jasper Cole, giving him my virginity. I frowned deeply, trying for the millionth time to recall exactly what had happened. What had persuaded me to exit the bathroom and go in search of Jasper? Obviously, I remembered our conversation leading up to sleeping together. And I could remember the act too. But those memories felt hazy, dim, compared to the rest. The most vivid flashback was Garrett walking in on us, and breaking up with me. Not that I blamed him, I'd have done a lot worse if the situation was reversed. I even thought about talking to Jasper about it. Did he have this fuzzy memory too? Or had I just shoved my actions deep down? Nonetheless, asking Jasper directly was out of the question. If Violet didn't get annoyed, Garrett definitely would. Ow! Ah! I groaned. I chucked the strands of hair I'd accidentally burnt off with the curler. I was way too distracted to do this. Unplugging the tool, I left the bathroom, throwing my hair into a ponytail instead. Garrett walked in as I picked up my jean jacket from the bed. Hey! How was breakfast? I asked with a smile. Terrible. Why? Can you believe Jasper was there? He sat heavily on the bed. Well. Yeah, Garrett. He is Violet's mate. Dad even called him son. He continued as if he hadn't heard me. And Violet was all red cheeks and smiles too. Ugh. I swear if he touched my sister. So. He looked at me finally. They are mates. It isn't really our business if they are intimate with each other. I shrugged, but Garrett narrowed his eyes at me. I knew what he was thinking. Why are you sticking up for him? He demanded. There it was. I'm not sticking up for him. I sighed. I'm just saying that if they want to do that, then it's their business, not anyone else's. You can say the word Sophia. It's not like you're not familiar with it. I took a step back, hurt washing through me. What did you just say to me? What? You have had S***X. So this is how it's going to be, Garrett? What happened to starting over? We are starting over. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic? Do you have any idea how much you just insulted me right now? He scoffed. Sophia, you can't be mad about the truth. And the truth is, you slept with Jasper, and now you're sticking up for him. No, the truth is I clenched my jaw against the words begging to come out. I didn't want to fight with him. What? Never mind. I put on my jacket, heading for the door. No, say it. He said behind me. His tone was unbelievably childish. I whirled around, planting my feet. Fine. The truth is that you never really planned to move on with me. The way you're acting right now, it only says that you're going to throw this in my face any chance you get. I'm not going to sit here and take that, Garrett. Grow up. His lips parted at my words, his eyes sparking with anger. Before this turned into a screaming match, I quickly left the room. The door slammed open behind me as I stomped down the hall. Sophia. I ignored Garrett. I wasn't going to fight with him anymore, it was too much. Why couldn't we just have a normal morning? Sophia, stop. Go away, Garrett. His hand landed on my shoulder, twisting me around to face him. I shrugged him off, glaring. Just stop. I'm sorry, okay. I snorted, looking away. Look. I shouldn't have said all that. I can't stand it. He's always around now, anywhere I go. And what? I snapped. You are my mate, not Jasper. You have no reason to be jealous, Garrett. I don't want him. But you did. You did, Sophia, at one time. You wanted him more than me. I grabbed my hair in frustration. Oh my goddess. No, I didn't. I've never wanted anyone like I want you, okay? I don't know why I did what I did, but I'm so tired of my life revolving around it. I just want to move on. I am not fighting about this with you for the rest of my life. Tears of anger, frustration, and hurt sat on my lower lashes. I stared at him, trying to get him to understand that this was too much, toxic. I couldn't live like this, mate or not. What do you want me to do, Garrett? Stay inside the pack house, the bedroom, forever? Just in case I happen to run into him? Do you want me to say sorry every morning when you wake up, and every night you go to sleep? How many times do I need to say sorry? What do you want me to do, to make you trust me again? That's ridiculous, Sophia. I'm not going to cage you like an animal. But how do I know you won't go seeking him out? Or any other guy? How am I supposed to believe I'm enough for you, when I obviously wasn't before? Before I could answer, another voice sounded behind us. Enough. I looked over my shoulder. Violet was standing, leaning against the wall with her arms crossed. To my surprise, she was glaring at her brother instead of me. This isn't the place to be doing this, Garrett, she said. The whole lower floor can hear you guys. Don't you have a mate to get to? Garrett replied sarcastically. Violet raised her eyebrows. He's went home for now. Hallelujah. Stop. She spat at him. I understood before why you were upset, but this is getting ridiculous. Mind your own business, Violet. Why should I mind my business when my own brother is treating a girl? She's my mate excatly. To my utter dismay, Luna Lily and the Alpha, along with his Beta and Gamma, climbed up the ladder. The group stared between Violet and us, and my cheeks burned with embarrassment. This is what I had hoped to avoid. What is going on? Why are you two yelling at each? The Luna asked. Same as always, Mom. Violet can't keep her nose where it belongs. Shut up. Violet. No, Mom. She pushed away from the wall, taking a few steps towards us. I'd seen her angry many times, at school, and I could only hope she wouldn't direct it at me. You chose to accept Sophia as your mate. That doesn't mean you can belittle and degrade her whenever you feel like it. Every face turned to Garrett. His dad seemed to be getting angry, while his mom looked disappointed. Beta Ben and Gamma Luke just appeared to be shocked. My eyes refocused on Violet as she stood in front of me, taking my hand. I glanced at my mate as she dragged me away. Violet, it's fine. Really? I didn't help the situation, so stop that. She snapped at me. I don't give a FK what you two were arguing about. He doesn't have any right to speak to you the way he was. I heard what he said, Sophia. If you think you deserve that, by all means, run along back to him. I won't intervene again though. You were right, he needs to grow up. My eyebrows furrowed slightly as I listened to her. I knew I didn't deserve this, yes, I'd FK it up. But how long was Garrett going to keep punishing me for my mistake? This man, the one seething in the middle of the corridor behind us, was not the man I loved once. This man was consumed by jealousy and hate. When he showed up to my house, I really believed he was going to try and work things out with me. Was I stupid, or just naive? Regardless, I knew I was better than this. I wasn't the type of girl to sit down quietly. I don't deserve this. I said more to myself than to Violet. No, you don't. Are you kidding me? Garrett shouted behind us. This time, his dad stepped forward. His alpha aura was strong, making me cringe. I thought we taught you better than ever mistreat your mate, no matter who it is, or what happened in the past. You're living in the past, Garrett, and it's not healthy. Who are you to talk to me about mistreating mates? I gasped, along with everyone else. Alpha Dimitri's eyes widened, but that was the only part of his composure he lost. Violet was shaking behind me, looking 5 seconds away from attacking her brother. The other three were just staring at Garrett, various expressions of disbelief on their faces. Go to your room. Alpha Dimitri's voice was suddenly so soft, a sharp contrast to his previous tone, that it threw me completely. What? I said, go to your room. No. The Alpha took a step in his son's direction. You want to act like a kid? I'll start treating you like a kid again. Only boys treat women this way, not men. Clearly, you are still just a boy. Moving faster than my eyes could see, Alpha Dimitri suddenly had Garrett by the back of his shirt, dragging him back to the bedroom. Garrett kicked and screamed the whole way, and I was ashamed at that moment to see how childlike he really was acting. A second later, Alpha Dimitri exited, slamming the door behind him so hard, I was surprised it didn't break. I glanced to my left. Luna Lily looked equal parts angry as well as sad. Are you all right? Violet asked. Yes. Thank you, Sophia. The Luna turned to me. I don't know exactly what happened, but I want you to know. Nobody here would hold it against you if you rejected my son. My jaw dropped, and I took a step back. That was the absolute last thing I ever expected to hear. No, no. I don't want to reject him, Luna. I would. Viold sneered. I took a deep breath. I know that Garrett was wrong. And believe me, I won't sit down and take it, ever. But that man, that's not Garrett. That's not your brother, or your son. He's just lost. I was picked to be the future Luna of this pack, and part of that comes with helping the future Alpha of this pack. I want to help Garrett, even if I'm the reason for his torment. He is a good person, I won't give up on him so easily. Spoken like a true Luna. Gamma Luke smiled at me and I blushed. Indeed. I remember someone else who was lost, once. Luna Lily glanced at her mate. However, I don't suggest returning to your room just now. No, I've had enough fighting for one day. Come on. Violet grabbed my hand again, confusing me. Where are we going? She heaved a sigh. If you manage to take my brother's head out of his ass, it's likely you're going to be my sister-in-law someday. So, let's go hang out and get to know each other and all that jazz. Okay. I let her pull me out the pack house and to her car. As I buckled my seatbelt, I glanced back at the house. Why did love have to be so complicated? Jasper's POV mom and I were sitting at the kitchen table. She wouldn't look at me, just stared at the redwood finish with a profound frown. Twice, she'd opened her mouth to speak, but closed it again. I didn't blame her. Meeting my possible biological parent, even one of them, must be hard for her. These people took me in, raised me, fed me, clothed me, loved me. I expected this to be harder for her than it was for me. I waited patiently, though, letting her gather her thoughts and feelings. Finally, she spoke. You want to do this? Yes. Why? That was a tough one. But I couldn't be anything than honest with her. I'm not sure. Partly to see if it's true. Another part of me just wants to look him in the eye and ask the questions I've been wondering about for years. Lots of reasons, Mom, but none of them are solid, I guess. If he is your dad, your biological dad, he might not accept you, Jasper. She finally met my eyes. I know that's harsh, but I don't want you to have hopes of a reunion that might not happen. I nodded. I know, Mom. I'm prepared for any outcome. Are you? No offense, son, but you're still just a kid. I don't want to see you get hurt. Her voice choked up at the end. I stood, walking around the table, and wrapping her in my arms. This woman was worth $1 million in gold, yet she was priceless too. Once again, I found myself being eternally indebted to have been blessed with a mom like her. I loved my bio mom, and missed her like crazy sometimes. But I was proud to be a Cole. You're allowed to come with me. Tell you what, if he turns out to be a complete AE, you can have at him. I chuckled. Don't think I won't. She retorted. I pulled back. So, you're coming with me then? Of course. Your dad too. When is this Alpha coming? Well, he's actually already here. We were supposed to meet yesterday, but, the incident at the pack house delayed the meeting. I rubbed the back of my neck, unsure if I was allowed to tell my parents about Vi. They would never say anything, but I wasn't sure about their feelings towards hybrids. Maybe I could sneak the topic in somewhere beforehand. Ah. So when? Mom asked. Tomorrow morning. Alpha Dimitri wants us to be there by 11. The Luna is making a brunch. Mom clapped her hands. Oh, yay. I love Lila's cooking. I laughed, silently agreeing. The breakfast the Luna prepared this morning was incredible. It was better than Mom's, though I would never tell her that. How is Violet? She's good. How are you and Violet? A smile crept onto my face, and I think I blushed too. Mom smiled too, a knowing smile. Parents, they knew everything, even if we didn't tell them. Did you mark her? She leaned forward while I sat back down. No. I wanted to, but I didn't want to do it out of the blue. I wasn't sure how she'd feel about it. That was probably a good call. She is or was a virgin, right? I nearly choked on my saliva. Mom. What? Oh please Jasper, it's not a big deal. We're adults, and if you're having X, then you should be able to talk about it without being embarrassed. That was kind of what Vi had said to me at the cabin. Still, it was a bit weird talking about it with Mom. Yeah, she was. I mumbled. Well, I'm sure she will let you know her thoughts on it. She tapped her fingers on the table, grinning. Besides, females get pregnant easier after being marked, and I want grandbabies soon. This time I did choke. Goddess Mom. It's way too soon to be thinking about that. She shrugged, totally serious. I simply shook my head. A knock on the front door saved me from more of this conversation. I practically ran from the kitchen, much to Mom's amusement. Whoever it was at the door, I owed them big time. Hey! I pulled Violet to me, wrapping her in a tight hug. Thank you. For saving me. My mate looked at me like I was insane. Should I ask? Oh, he's just all weirded out because I brought up S*X. Mom came up behind me, giving Violet her own hug. What? Oh, hello. Mom was looking over Vi's shoulder. I raised one eyebrow, I hadn't even noticed Sophia. Why was she here? Did that mean Garrett was here too? Sophia glanced at me, looking nervous as hell. Hello Mrs. Cole. She replied. Friend of yours? Mom asked Violet. My brother's mate. Ah. Is he here too? He was being a jackass, so we left him at home. Violet shrugged and Mom shot me a look. Anyway, we came to see if Jasper wanted to hang out. Sure. My hesitation was sound. My past with Sophia hadn't been generally well received, which was fair. So it was understandable that I was a little confused and surprised that Violet all of a sudden wanted us to all hang out together. Don't get me wrong, I was glad she didn't seem to have the same animosity towards me that Garrett had. But this situation was strange. Great. I thought we could go see a movie. Sounds good. I'll grab my wallet. We'll be in the car. She hugged my mom again. I'll see you later, Linda. You too, dear. Have fun. Sophia and Vi waved as they walked back to her car. I went inside to locate my wallet, not wanting to keep her waiting. This would have been a great date, if Sophia wasn't here too. Oh well. Have fun. Are you coming home tonight? Mom handed me my jacket as I passed. I'm not sure. I'll let you know though, okay? I kissed her cheek before running out the door. Sophia was in the back seat, Violet tapping her fingers on the steering wheel to the music playing. I slid in the passenger seat, smiling at her. "What do you guys want to see?" she asked as she pulled away from the curb. "The new Jurassic World movie is playing," I suggested. Violet grinned happily. "I'm in." "Sophia?" "Yeah, sure." I gave Vi a question mark look, which she ignored. "You mind if I pick up Dylan and Brienne?" She looked at me, then Sophia in the rearview mirror. We both shook our heads, and 10 minutes later, the car was full. Dylan and I got to talking about which Jurassic movie was the best, with Brienne and Violet chiming in now and again. Sophia sat in the back, gazing out the window, not saying a word. The theater was located in the center of the pack, about a half-hour drive. The 5 of us got out after we managed to find a parking spot, and I held Violet's hand as we entered. A couple kids from school lingered around the main area, either in line to get snacks or looking at the posters of the new releases playing. A lot of eyes turned our way as we passed, mostly on me and Vi. She ignored them, and I tried to too. We bought our tickets, the guy behind the counter eyeing me almost rudely. "Here." He shoved my ticket at me, and I grabbed it. "What's his issue?" I grumbled as we walked away. "Oh, Tyler? Don't worry about him. He's just jealous." Brienne chirped beside me. "Jealous?" "Yeah. He's had a crush on Violet forever." She giggled. I glanced back. Tyler was staring after our group, glaring at me. I shot him the finger and smirked. Too bad for him. "Since when does Tyler have a crush on me?" Vi asked, peeking around my back to see her friend. "Really? He stares at you constantly in math. You never noticed?" "No." Brienne shook her head, but I smiled, kissing the top of her head. We got in line for the room our movie was playing, chatting casually. I noticed a group of girls giving Violet the stink eye. They quickly turned around when they caught me glaring at them. Who knew going to the movies would bring us so much attention? The doors opened and we moved at a good pace, entering the dark room and finding our seats. I'd barely sat, when Violet pulled my arm. "I'm going to get popcorn. You guys want anything?" "Diet Coke and extra butter for me," Brain said. "Same, except not diet," Dylan said. "Sophia?" "Nothing for me, thanks." "Okay. Be right back." We walked back out of the room, going to the snack bar. As soon as the line moved ahead enough, she leaned into me. "I know you're just dying to ask me what she's doing here with us." "Yeah, actually." "What's the deal?" She sighed. Then she launched into what happened earlier with her brother, mom, and dad. My stomach knotted more and more as she spoke. Garrett really hated me that much, that he would treat his mate that way? "What can I do?" I asked. Violet raised her eyebrows. "I didn't say you had to do anything." "No, but this is obviously upsetting you. And your family. And it's because of me, I want to help." "Should I talk to Garrett?" Violet winced. "Please, don't. That might be the last thing any of us need. Besides, you've got enough to be worrying about, I'm sure." Now I winced. Good point. She doesn't seem to enjoy being out with us though. Oh, she was happy earlier. She only got all sullen when I told her I was going to pick you up. Understandably, she got a bit timid. A question burned on the tip of my tongue, but I held it in. Honestly, I was afraid of what she would say if I did ask. "I can almost see the wheels turning in your head, Jasper." She grinned at me. I know what you're thinking, and the answer is no. Is it weird you slept with her? Yeah, a little. She might be my future sister-in-law. But I'm not mad at you, or her. It's in the past, and that's where it can stay. But hey, way to keep it in the family, dude. Heat rushed to my face, coloring my cheeks. Shut up. Violet laughed as we made our way to the girl behind the concession stand. She was a tall brunette with big blue eyes that never left me. I rolled my eyes, but she didn't get the hint. That'll be 42.68. Cash or debit, handsome? She batted her fake lashes at me. Cash. Violet dropped a 50 on the counter. The girl unwillingly turned to her, taking the money in her fingers like it was carrying a disease. A few minutes later, I helped load up all the food and drinks. No tip. The girl leaned over the counter, her blouse way too undone to be appropriate for work. Yet. Violet smiled at the girl sweetly. Learn to keep your eyes off other girls' men. And do up your shirt. Brunette's jaw dropped, her cheeks instantly going crimson. I tried to cover my laugh, unsuccessfully. We left her standing there, hurriedly doing up her blouse and muttering to herself. We got back just in time for the previews to start, dispersing the snacks around. Violet handed Sophia a bag of gummy worms, earning a small smile in return. We whisper-talked through the previews, commenting on a few movies that looked good, and then settling in for the main show. You like these kinds of movies? I whispered a while later to Violet. She nodded. Almost as much as horror movies. I love dinosaurs. Hey! That was something I never knew about her. Good to know though. True enough, she was invested from beginning to end, and I couldn't help but watch her more than the movie itself. She was too cute. When the movie ended, she was all smiles, talking excitedly with Dylan about it. I trailed behind as we left the theater, letting her have a moment with her friends. Jasper. I glanced at Sophia, now walking beside me. Yet. I need to talk to you. She said lowly. I pursed my lips but nodded. Go ahead. I heard her take a breath. About that night, the party. Sophia, no, I don't want to talk about it. Not really. I was just wondering, do you remember it? I stopped, facing her. What are you getting at? I asked sharply. She brushed her hair behind her ear, nervous. I remember it, kind of. What we did, it's fuzzy for me. She frowned. I know I wasn't drunk, so I'm not sure how, but I need to know if it's only me. Unwillingly, the memory of that night came to mind. I didn't know what she meant though, I remembered everything. I don't know, Sophia. Have you considered you just feel guilty about it? Yes, actually. That's probably your answer then. Jasper, I'm sorry. None of this drama would be happening if it wasn't for me. She looked over at the rest of our group. I can see how happy you two are. I'm sorry if my actions caused any problems for you. I rubbed my forehead. Thanks. But it wasn't just your actions. You know what they say, it takes two to tango. We're both at fault really. I guess. Was that all? Yes. All right. We continued walking. Violet looked between the two of us as we approached, but she didn't look mad. Maybe she knew Sophia wanted to talk to me. I gave her a short kiss before going around to get in the car, just happy that at least one of the Alpha's twins knew how to be reasonable. Violet's POV: I got back home around 6 after spending the day with our friends. Sophia had chosen to go home, not wanting another possible fight with her mate. I silently applauded her, let him reflect on his actions, maybe he'd learn. I already knew I was in for it, but I still grimaced when Jasper and I walked through the door. "Hey Aunt Clara! Grandpa!" I nodded at both of them, standing in the foyer, arms crossed. As expected, neither of them looked happy. "You had training today?" Aunt Clara growled at me. "I know. I'm sorry. Didn't Mom tell you I was out?" "She did. You still should have shown up," Grandpa said. "This is important, Violet." Usually, I'd have some smart-ass remark or comment. But not with Grandpa. I respected him too much to be snarky towards him. It had taken Mom a good amount of time to forgive him for leaving her at the Snow Moon Pack. They had a steady, but not wonderful, relationship now. The choice he made was hard, and I wasn't sure I could ever do what he did. Hopefully, I'd never have to make that choice. "Sorry," I told them sincerely. "You're here now. So, let's go," Aunt Clara said. "Wait, now." I panicked a little. "Yes, now. You need to learn this stuff, Violet, as soon as possible. If not how to use your magic, at least how to control it." Luckily, that's the easy part. I followed them back out of the house, Jasper following behind me. How was controlling this magic the easy part? We stopped behind the pack house, Aunt Clara holding out her hand. I groaned. "You don't even know where the cabin is." "I know where the border is." Grumbling, I took her hand, while Grandpa took her other. Aunt Clara looked at my mate expectantly. He looked back, totally confused. "Just put your hand on her shoulder, and close your eyes," I told him. "'Kay." I squeezed my eyes shut, feeling the familiar sensation of being thrown into a tornado. It lasted all of 2 seconds, and then I was standing still. "What?" Jasper had stumbled a few steps away, holding his stomach. "I told you to close your eyes." "I did." He groaned, bending at the waist. "If you're going to be sick, be quick about it, please. We don't have much daylight left." Aunt Clara sighed. "Which way are we going?" Grandpa asked him, and Jasper pointed vaguely. The two left, leaving me to take care of my mate. After multiple deep breaths and rubbing his back, we followed them slowly. I was a little angry he hadn't gotten sick. I'd puked my guts out the first time Aunt Clara teleported me. The walk to the cabin seemed shorter this time. We stopped a good distance away from the log house. I eyed my teachers nervously as they surveyed the area. "This seems good. At least, you won't damage too much out here. Nothing but trees anyway," Grandpa added. "Good. Let's start." They stared at me, and I stared back. Nobody said anything for a few minutes, and I wondered if they were waiting for me to do or say something. A minute later, Aunt Clara sighed again. "Jasper," she snapped. "Unless you want Violet to accidentally hurt you, get your ass over here." "Oh. Sorry." I giggled. Only Aunt Clara could bring out such a sheepish look on someone like Jasper. He walked behind them, sitting down against a tree, watching me intently. "Okay." I focused on my aunt. "We're going to do some exercises with you." Thankfully, I am prepared this time around. "What she means, Grandpa said, is your mom gave her a heart attack once when she tried to help her with her gifts." "Really?" I asked. "Ask her about it sometime. Now, close your eyes," Aunt Clara instructed. I did as she asked. Focus on your wolf. She is the other half to your soul, listen to us, and work together. Grandpa said. Hala. Let's do this. I smiled. She was as excited as a pup with a new toy. Tune out everything else, Violet. Everything except us and your wolf. That was trickier, especially with my accelerated senses, but I managed after a while. Good. Now, look inside yourself. Communicate with your wolf, not in words, but in mind. You can work together without speaking, you know each other, inside and out. You are one, together. At first, I wasn't sure how to do what she asked. Then I felt Hala's presence, slowly growing from inside my head and into the rest of my body. Then I understood. I felt like me, but I'd given part of the control over to my wolf without shifting. It was intense, and I'd never felt so close to her. She was everywhere within me, but I was still here too. We were, indeed, one. Together. It was incredible. Search further now. Find where your magic is hidden, observe it, memorize it. Together, Hala and I went inside ourselves. For a while, I struggled, trying to find any hint of the aura I'd felt in the pack house, and coming up empty. Frustrated, I opened my eyes. It's not working. Aunt Clara and Grandpa looked at each other. What's holding you back? Grandpa asked me gently. Nothing. Lying to yourself will only make this harder. I bit my lip, averting my eyes. I hated that he was right. Suddenly, Jasper was by my side, taking my hand in his. Remember, it's part of you, but it's not all of you. You can do this, Vi. He smiled at me, and my heart skipped a beat. How did he know what I couldn't even admit out loud? That I was scared to find that power again? Obviously the last time didn't work out so well. I didn't want to hurt anybody here. You don't have to be scared. Grandpa said now. We're here to make sure nothing happens to you. I'm here too. I won't let us lose control. Hala comforted me. Okay. I shook my head, trying to find my determination. Okay, let's try again. Jasper moved back to his spot under the tree, and I closed my eyes, blocking everything out. Once I felt that unique connection with Hala, I tried again. When I started to get frustrated, Hala replayed Jasper's words. It helped, a lot. After what felt like hours, I found what I was looking for. A smaller, considerably less powerful spark than before, hiding within my soul. I felt my head nod. Good, Violet. Now. I want you to reach for that feeling, your magic. Take it, and hold it close. I shook my head vigorously. I found it, I didn't want to touch it. You don't need to be scared. Grandpa repeated. That magic? It's yours. It's a part of you, Violet. It can't hurt you, and it can't hurt anyone else, because you won't let it. You control it, not the other way around. Hesitantly, slowly, I reached for that part of myself. Hala was eager, but I was terrified. Beyond terrified. I tried to push the fear away, enough to do what needed to be done. I nodded again, waiting. I want you to imagine something. It could be a chest, a box, anything with a lid. A vision of a treasure chest popped into my mind. I imagined it was gold, thick, with a heavy lid. Take that part of yourself, your magic, and put it inside. Close the lid. Lock it. Good. Open your eyes. I blinked. Everyone was smiling at me, and I felt mentally weary. That's it? I asked. For now. You did great. Anytime you feel yourself losing control, just imagine that enclosure, and keep it from opening. It takes some practice, but you'll get the hang of it. What do you imagine? I couldn't help but ask. I keep mine in a white box, with pink flowers. It was my mother's jewelry box. Aunt Clara smiled fondly. I imagine my sock drawer. Grandpa chuckled. Really? Jasper asked. It was the first thing that came to mind. Grandpa shrugged and I giggled. Thank you. I told them. Knowing what to do now, I didn't feel as scared. I felt like I was no longer a ticking time bomb. Tomorrow, after your meeting, we will come back and walk you through some more of the steps, maybe even try a few simple spells. I cringed and Aunt Clara noticed. What? I don't want to. Can't I just keep it locked up? All three of them gave me sympathetic looks. Aunt Clara came to stand in front of me, putting her hands on my shoulders. Do you remember, when you 5, there was a fire in the woods? I blinked at her, searching my memory. I did somewhat remember that. We weren't allowed in that area for a while. I nodded. That was ISA. My eyes widened hugely. Hey! She got angry at Ben. And she lost control. Whether or not you keep your magic locked up, it always finds a way to come forth eventually. So, it's better to learn when and how to use it. More so, you shouldn't hide it. It makes you who you are, Violet. And it's nothing to be ashamed about. I am not ashamed. I'm scared. I admitted lowly. We all were at times. Grandpa said. Every witch you will ever meet has, at one point or another, lost control. It is a scary feeling, but we learn from it, grow from it. Magic can be scary. But it can also be beautiful. Aunt Clara smiled, releasing me. She waved her hand, muttering a spell. I watched in amazement as the ground under me started growing new grass. Among the blades, little sproutlings popped up, reaching towards the sky and opening into warm-colored tulips. That's amazing. Jasper came to stand to the side, watching the little garden grow under our feet in awe. Aunt Clara looked back to me. The best lesson I can teach you is this: people say there is light and darkness. There is always some good and evil. But that's not always true, especially with our kind. When a witch turns to the darkness, there is no coming back, it eats at our soul, corrupts us irrevocably. Dark witches are not to be underestimated, and they deserve no mercy. Her tone hinted at something, and I knew what she meant. Janine would get no mercy from me. I nodded in acknowledgement. I'll remember that. Good. Let's go home. Grandpa said, walking to Clara. I stepped back. I think we'll run home. I said quickly. Jasper nodded firmly. All right. I do plan to teach you how to teleport, so you dash. She glanced at my mate, had better get used to it. His face went pale and I laughed. I gave them both a quick hug, and then they were gone. I turned to my mate, taken back when his lips suddenly connected with mine. Instantly, a whole new mood surrounded the air around us and I wrapped my arms around his neck. I know you could do it. I'm proud of you. He whispered. Thanks. I feel better. I noticed something though. What's that? Your magic didn't come out when we made love. He kissed the spot under my ear, making me shiver. Do I not bring out intense feelings in you? His mouth was moving lower, his hands on my waist pulling me closer. I don't know. I teased. Maybe we should try again and find out. Neither of us waited after that. Our clothes were soon strewn on the ground around us, our lips moving in sync as we lay together on the magical garden. I was feeling bold tonight. Bringing my leg over, I straddled Jasper, his erection pressing onto my backside. He gazed at me with such affection, I found myself blushing. I want to try something new. I'm not complaining. Getting my position, I slowly lowered myself onto him. I was already very aroused, but it still stung a bit. I pushed past that until he was all the way inside me. From here, I wasn't really what to do, it felt different too, deeper. Pushing up with my knees, I slammed back on top of him, a deep moan falling from my lips. Jasper held my waist lightly as I found a steady rhythm, my cries echoing into the forest. I began to move faster, wanting to find that release. Jasper's name tumbled out of me over and over until, gasping and panting, I came around him. He followed not long after, sitting up and holding me against him. We took a few minutes to catch our breath. At this moment, I was utterly happy, maybe the happiest I'd ever been. I want to stay here tonight. I mumbled against him. Yet. I raised my head to kiss his cheek. I'm not quite done enjoying your company yet. The silver in eyes shone at my words. Getting to his feet, he carried me all the way into the cabin, barely stopping to close the door. I briefly mind-linked Mom to let her know, and then my back hit the softness of the bed, my mate's body above mine and his lips claiming me again. Jasper's POV. I woke up to the best sight. Violet was lying next to me, her expression completely peaceful, her black hair spread over the pillow. I took a few precious moments to just look at her, I was one lucky guy. I stroked her cheek gently, silently laughing when her nose scrunched a bit. She was beautiful. I continued caressing her face, until her eyes fluttered open. Morning. I said softly. Morning. What are you doing? Just admiring the view. The cheek under my fingers turned pink. You're corny. She mumbled. I know. Suddenly, her eyes widened. What time is it? I checked my phone. 10. We have to go to the pack house. I nodded, but my stomach tightened. I would be more than happy to spend the day in bed with her. Nonetheless, I rolled out of bed, going to the dresser. I tossed Violet a shirt, then grabbed clothes for myself. We can shift, and get dressed later. I said mechanically. Okay. If she noticed the difference in my tone, she didn't comment. Together, we left the cabin, holding our clothes. I shifted first, Vi following my lead. Hala and Eno jumped at each other, sniffing and licking. Quickly reining him in, much to his disappointment, we set off for the pack house. Even though everything in me wanted to turn around and run the opposite direction. Why are you so nervous now? We knew this was coming. Eno commented. I know. I guess. It felt a little surreal, the idea of meeting my real dad. Now it's going to happen, and I don't know what to expect. Our alpha might be wrong. He might not be our father. Yet. Maybe. Deep down though, I knew I was about to meet my real dad. I would know immediately, and so would he. There was no need for a DNA test, wolves could sense their kin, even if they'd never met them before. Hala bumped into me, whining quietly. Was my distress that noticeable right now? I picked up the sense of the pack house after a while, slowing down. This place was becoming more familiar to me. I dropped the clothes I'd brought from my mouth and shifted back. Once I was dressed, a now human Violet came to stand in front of me. She put her hand on my cheek, studying my face. "Are you okay?" "I'm good. Just nervous," I said quickly. "I'm here with you, you know. No matter what happens." I covered her hand with my own. "I know. Thanks." She gave me a quick smile, reaching up on her toes to kiss me. "Come on. He should be here soon." I let her pull me out of the shadows of the forest, and I suddenly felt too exposed. Vi chatted as we walked, an obvious attempt to distract me. For once, it didn't work. I felt too hot, and a little dizzy too. When we entered the house, I almost passed out in relief that nobody was there to greet us. "I need to change," Violet said, her hand slipping out of mine. "I'll wait here." As soon as she was gone, I regretted not going with her. The last thing I wanted, or needed, was to have this Alpha Warwick come in and see me standing alone in the corner. My mind was busy, playing out every which way this meeting could possibly go. "Jasper!" I jumped at voice that was so close. Mom and Dad were standing a foot away, looking at me with unreadable expressions. Only their eyes betrayed how worried they really were. "Hey! Are we late?" Dad asked. "Hey? Oh, no. I'm just waiting for Vi to change." "Ah." We stood awkwardly, nodding to the various maids who passed us by. Mom was tapping her foot and biting her nails, while Dad stood stone-faced, giving nothing away. I imagined this was harder for him than anyone else. After all, he was the one I'd called Dad since I was 6. Even if this went well, he would always be my father, the man who raised me. Violet walked back to us then, wearing a black t-shirt and jeans. She took my hand, leading me down the hall towards the kitchens. Mom and Dad followed closely. "Dad says we're meeting in the common area. I should warn you, Alpha Warwick is already there." She glanced up at me, and I had no idea what expression was on my face. All I could do was focus breathing normally. "Jasper, it'll be okay." She squeezed my hand lightly. "We're all here for you," Mom said behind me. They kept trying to reassure me, but I couldn't focus. We'd stopped in front of a double door, and I scented him. And I knew. On the other side of this door, was my father. The man who sired me, and then couldn't bother to make sure I lived or not. The man who abandoned my mom and me. My hands starting shaking as a wave of anger engulfed me. Why did I want to meet him? No, I couldn't do this. Before I had the chance to walk away though, the door on the left opened, revealing a smiling Luna Lily. "Jasper. Violet. Mr. and Mrs. Cole. Please, come in." She stood aside, gesturing for us to enter. Mom put her hand on my back, giving me a little nudge. "Thank you, Luna." "Just Lily, as always, Linda." They stopped to talk for a minute, while my feet unwillingly moved forward. The room itself was fairly impressive. Every type of game system and multiple flat-screen T.vs were placed around, along with several tables with stacks of playing cards. I counted 3 refrigerators, and a couple mini fridges too. It was also large. I guessed 100 or so people could fit in here comfortably. The walls were a nice purple, with a high ceiling adorned with lights. The thing attracting my attention the most though, was the aura coming from the center of the room. 3 long sofas sat around a low table, filled with food. Alpha Dimitri sat on one, facing us, his beta on the other end. The couch parallel to theirs was empty, while the one opposite them had one occupant. I stopped walking, unable to go any further. There was a tense silence as I held my breath, staring at the back of this man's head. My eyes followed his movements as his head tilted to the right, scenting the air. And then he was standing, turning to face us. I heard a low gasp, either my mom or Violet, I couldn't tell. I was too focused on the alpha in front of me. His hair was the same shade as mine, but straight, and with hints of grey. It was cut shorter too. I guessed we were close to the same height, though he was much broader than I was. I saw myself in him, his nose, his mouth. But most of all, his eyes. The silver in them matched mine perfectly, giving no more reason to doubt. This man was my father. I was the son of an alpha. Jasper, I presume. Alpha Warwick's voice was low, deep, and held an edge to it. I nodded once. We stared at each other a minute more before he sighed. He turned to Alpha Dimitri. Well, you were right. This boy is definitely mine. I figured. Turning his back on me, he sat back down. Well, come over. Let's talk a bit. Reaching behind me, I grabbed Violet's hand. She held it tightly the whole way to the unoccupied sofa, sitting next to me. Mom and Dad took the seats next to her, while Luna Lily sat beside her Alpha. Everyone stared between me and Alpha Warwick. Who is this? He gestured to Violet. My mate. I answered shortly. He gazed at her, sending another wave of anger through me. Anyone here could see the lust in his eyes, and I was thankful when Luna Lily cleared her throat, getting his attention. Violet is our daughter. She explained. Makes sense. She's a beauty. Thank you. I felt Vi shiver beside me, obviously uncomfortable. I released her hand to my arm around her shoulder. Alpha Warwick poured himself a drink, sitting back. I suppose you have questions. One or two. Go ahead. My brain stuttered, all the questions coming together too fast. I couldn't process fast enough to form a coherent one. Slightly panicking, I looked at my mom. The Alpha noticed, scoffing loudly. Come now, boy. You need this woman to speak for you. Dad inhaled, his face turning a light shade of red. Mom's mouth opened, but I shook my head at her. Okay. I guess I'll start with the obvious one. Where were you all this time? He sipped his drink nonchalantly. I have a pack to run. I frowned. Was he dodging the question? Why didn't you ever come to me? He asked. I didn't know who you were. My mom never told me who my dad was. Who was your mother? Natalia Black. Ah. Yes, I remember her. He swallowed the rest of his drink in one go. Didn't know she got pregnant though. How could you not know? I snapped. Alpha Warwick shrugged. She was a maid in the pack house. I didn't pay attention to the maids usually, unless it was to have some fun. Beta Ben made a disgusted sound. What happened? Why did she go rogue? Luna Lily asked. Another maid caught her stealing. So I banished her. By now, my vision was red. So, he really didn't care about Mom. Or me. He used her for his fun, and then kicked her out of the pack. He even had the audacity to insult her. If it wasn't for Violet holding my arm, I'd have punched him already. Didn't she have a family there? Alpha Dimitri snapped. I don't know. Don't really care. He looked back to me. Where is she anyway? Dead. I said monotonously. Ah. He picked up a piece of fruit, as if he couldn't care less. He probably didn't. What is your pack like? Luna Lily quickly interjected. I could tell she was trying to diffuse the tension. It runs smoothly. I have a unique system that keeps everything going the way I want. Unique system? Mom frowned. Alpha Warwick nodded. There's me and my mate and son at the top. Below me is my beta and gamma, and their kids. Then we have a few honored pack members who live close to the pack house. What about everyone else? They exist as warriors. I blinked. Everyone. Everyone. We recruit at age 10, and they are sent out on the field by age 12. His tone said he was very proud of this, yet nobody seemed to know what to say. Me? I was vibrating next to Violet. This man was sending kids to fight, kids who weren't anywhere near shifting. Who hadn't even got their wolves yet. This was his unique system? Does that include your own son? I snapped. Oh no. He is too valuable to risk. The others, merely pack members who serve to pay us their taxes and fight on our behalf. That did it. My self-control slipped, my rage coming to the surface. I was on my feet, nearly throwing Violet to the floor, but I would feel bad about that later. I was too angry. I'd been in this room for less than 20 minutes, and I'd gotten all the answers I needed. This man was a... What is wrong with you? I hissed furiously. You think your pack members are only there to serve you? That they exist as mates you can FK, and throw away, or kids to be sent to their deaths. If it wasn't for those people, you wouldn't even have a pack. You're a sorry excuse for an alpha. Shut your mouth, boy. He jumped to his feet as well. What have you got to complain about? You lost your mommy, boo-hoo. You're living in one of the wealthiest, most powerful packs this side of the world. To top it off, you got the alpha's daughter for a mate. I'd say you're doing pretty well for yourself. Don't you dare talk to my son that way. Mom shouted. If he was truly your son, we wouldn't be here. Jasper is our son. We raised him. Dad defended her. You raised a weakling. He pointed at me. What did you expect to get out of me? A hug? Money? All you'll get from me is the acknowledgement that you are of my blood. But that doesn't mean st to me. It should. Violet spoke for the first time, drawing everyone's attention to her. Excuse me. Get out. She snapped. Excuse me. I need to talk to my mate, and my family. You can come back in a few minutes. I'm going to let some little bit Uncle Ben. Yet, you may not want to finish that sentence. Ben stood up, glancing at our alpha. He was glaring at Alpha Warwick so coldly, even I took a step back. You heard my daughter. Get out. His voice was calm, making it somehow even more menacing. The only one not affected was his Luna, who was nibbling on a sandwich. Alpha Warwick glared around the room, but eventually gave in, stomping to the doors and slamming them on his way out. Dad said. Should I stay with him? Ben looked at Alpha Dimitri, who nodded. When he was gone, everyone turned to Violet. What are you thinking? I asked. She pursed her lips. Well, it's obvious he's your dad. Which means you have the same rights as Garrett does. I furrowed my brows, not following her. By law, you have the right to challenge him for the title of Alpha. Her words threw me completely. Mom and Dad started talking at the same time, totally against the idea. I'm not saying you should. But it might make him stop and think. I sat down. I hadn't even considered that being the son of an alpha gave me the birthright to take over for him. Maybe I would have thought about it more, if he hadn't turned out to be. However, knowing what he was like now, I couldn't help but think. I couldn't imagine the people of his pack were very happy, who would be, living under an alpha like him? What about his other son? He is only 11 years old. Alpha Dimitri explained. What pack does he run anyway? Dad grumbled. Silver Moon. It's about an hour away, to the west. What is it like there? I asked. I've only ever been there once, and my trip was short. Not even a full day. Though, from what I could see, it's a desolate place. Tiny houses, if you can call them that, but a grand pack house. The few other nice places must belong to those honored pack members he mentioned. I shook my head in disgust. Alpha Warwick was a tyrant, for sure. Jasper. Mom's voice squeaked, her eyes glassy. You're not actually considering this, are you? What would you do, Mom? Or you, Dad? I'm the only one who can challenge him. But you would have to leave. You would have to take over as Alpha. Is that such a bad thing? If I win, I could liberate that pack. I could help them, do some good. Her lower lip trembled, but Dad was looking at me with respect. He nodded, wrapping his arm around his mate. You do what you think it right, son. What? He's right, Linda. Since when does Blood Moon turn away from those in need? It's in his blood he'll make one of an alpha. Mom pouted, visibly upset and grumbling. Bring him back in. Alpha Warwick came in, just as before. He shot Violet a dirty look, to which she smirked. I looked at my Alpha. Alpha Dimitri, I request the challenge take place in Blood Moon. He nodded. Granted. What challenge? Alpha Warwick snapped. I stood up, looking him directly in the eye. I, Jasper Cole of Blood Moon, challenge you, Alpha Warwick, for the title of Alpha of Silver Moon. His jaw dropped. He stared at me dumbfounded for all of 5 seconds before he started laughing. It was a booming laugh that echoed off the walls. You know that's a challenge to the death, right, boy? I'm aware. I growled. Very well. He grinned, a hint of bloodlust in his eyes. I, Alpha Warwick of Silver Moon, accept the challenge for the title of Alpha of Silver Moon. Garrett's POV. Sophia hadn't come back. I'd texted her, called her, but all she said was we'd talk later, after I'd calmed down. What? My dad had dragged me into my room in front of everyone. I was obviously not going to be calm about that. I couldn't believe the way everyone ganged up on me. It wasn't like I hit Sophia or something. No, this was Violet sticking her nose where it didn't belong. As usual. Sophia and I could have worked something out, if she hadn't been eavesdropping. You really are a selfish brat sometimes. Hugo growled in my head. Wow. So even you're against me. I am not against you, Garrett. But I do know that the way you treated our mate was wrong. I'm surprised you haven't acknowledged that yet. Okay, maybe I was a little harsh, but come on. You want to mark her as badly as I do. I do. But I do not want to force her either. I wasn't forcing her. You lashed out because she would not mate with you. Your jealousy is getting the better of you, again. I'm not supposed to be upset about this? She gave herself to another guy, but she still won't sleep with me. Perhaps she does not want to mate with you when the reason is solely based on your problems with Jasper Cole. I growled at his words. Did it matter the reason? I wanted to be close to my mate, I didn't see a problem with that. I stared at the ceiling. I couldn't be in here anymore. With this, I was leaving. I jumped off the bed, throwing on my shoes. I was shocked that nobody was guarding my door. After all, I was now the troublemaker in the family, apparently. Making my way down the ladder, I nodded briefly to the workers who were putting in the elevator. It seemed Dad was putting in 2 large ones, side by side. Thank the goddess, I couldn't wait until they were done. Garrett. I turned to see Aunt Hazel. Hey! Long time no see. Indeed. Her facial expression said she knew exactly what had happened, and she wasn't impressed. I'm going out. Do your parents know? I scoffed. I'm not a child anymore. I don't need their permission. She didn't reply, only pursing her lips and eyeing me as I left. No doubt she was mind-linking Mom right now to tell her about my jailbreak. Whatever. Where are we going? Eno asked. I don't know. I just needed to get out. In other words, we're going to see our mate. That was the direction my feet were heading. Thinking about it though, I really didn't want to see her. I didn't want to fight about Jasper anymore. I didn't want to fight, period. It seemed inevitable though, every time I looked at my mate, all I could see was her and Jasper in that bed. It wasn't getting any easier either. Perhaps there is someone else we can talk to. Like who? Isn't your grandpa knowledgeable on people hating him? I blinked. A long time ago. Mom doesn't hate him anymore. And that's different, Mom is his daughter. Nonetheless, he may be able to give you some advice. Whatever. I turned around, heading to Grandma and Grandpa's. They lived fairly close to the pack house, but never in it. After Grandma had finally been rescued by Mom and Dad and Grandpa, she couldn't live in a place with so many people. I didn't really understand, but I never judged her, or asked too many questions. Mom built them their own house, a true fresh start. It was cute, a small 2-bedroom, living room, kitchen, and dining area. Vi and I used to use the spare bedroom when we stayed over. Now it was filled with books and reading chairs. My feet crunched on the gravel as I walked up the short drive. Before I even made it to the porch, Grandpa opened the door, smiling at me. Hey kid. Hi Grandpa. You busy? Not at all. Come on in. I took off my shoes outside, passing him on my way in. The house was quiet today. I also didn't smell any tea. Grandma not home? I asked. She's grocery shopping. Oh. He led me to the living room, gesturing for me to sit on the sofa opposite his recliner. So, what brings you here? Grandpa asked casually. I bit the inside of my cheek. Well. Can I ask you something? Of course. I blew out a breath. How did you deal, when Mom was angry at you? His expression didn't change, and he didn't answer. Instead, he waved one hand. A second later, a can of soda floated over to me. I mumbled a thanks as I snatched it out of the air. I could give you advice on that all day long, Garrett. But your mate being angry at you isn't really the problem. I looked down at my soda, my shoulders hunching. I know. You need to work through this. It will ruin you, and any chance you have with Sophia. Is this the type of alpha you want to be? An alpha ruled by hate and jealousy and anger? No. Then you need to figure something out. I groaned, slamming my drink on the coffee table between us. I've tried, Grandpa. I keep thinking that soon, it will get better. The memory will stop being so hard. But it never does. Every time I see him, I get so angry I want to murder him. And whenever I see Sophia, I'm just a mess. My head dropped into my hands. I don't know. I don't know how to get past this. I'm sorry. I raised my head to look at him. I didn't know this was that painful for you. But I do understand, somewhat. The difference is, I actually got to kill the man who touched my mate. His eyes flashed with a cold anger. That's not an option for me. No. He leaned back, rubbing his goatee. However, I prompted. There might be another way. Mind you, it is the easy way out. Kind of a cop-out. My eyebrows furrowed. Hey! Perhaps we should discuss this with your mate. Grandpa snapped his fingers. 1 minute it was just us, and the next, Sophia appeared in the living room. I jumped, and she shrieked, looking around wildly. Grandpa! What? Grandpa chuckled. My apologies, dear. Sometimes that is rather amusing. Sophia's chest heaved, her hand on her heart. What? Did you just magic me here? The word is teleport, but yes. I did. I don't care what the word is. Warn me next time. Looking a bit out of it, she stumbled to the other end of the sofa. Goddess, I could have been in the shower. Sorry. This time, I apologized. The man really had no patience. He couldn't have waited for me to contact her first? Now that everyone is here, let's talk. No. First, tell me why you brought me here. She glared at both of us, but more at me. Obviously, she was still really angry. Don't look at me. He didn't say much before you popped in. I held up my hands. Garrett has explained to me that he is having a hard time getting over what happened between you two. Grandpa said. Sophia's face paled. She rounded on me. You told him to. Goddess Garrett. Just how many people did you tell? I didn't tell him. I defended. He didn't. Actually, my daughter confided in me. As for how she found out, she got it from Jasper. Oh my goddess! Sophia moaned, covering her face with her hands. Relax, child. Only a handful of people know, and none of us are the judgmental type. I can't believe Mom told you. She wanted our advice on how you would deal with it, and what to do if you reacted badly. Though I'm not sure why, honestly. I wasn't there for her teenage years. Maybe it's just an instinct, to rely on your parents' grandpa. I pulled him out of his pondering. Right. Anyway, as I was telling Garrett, there is another way to work through this issue. Though, it's not so much working through it as just forgetting it completely. Sophia and I looked at each other, then back at him. Neither of us knew what he was talking about. Care to elaborate? I asked. He turned to Sophia, leaning forward in his chair. To put it simply, I can erase Garrett's memory of that night, and all the memories up until now associated with it. My mouth opened with an audible pop. He was going to erase my memory? Did I even want that? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I kind of did. Grandpa was right too, it was definitely the easy way out. But he'd also made a good point earlier. What kind of alpha would I be like this? More, what kind of mate? Replaying everything between us so far, I realized just how badly I'd hurt her. I treated her unfairly, because of a problem I had. I didn't want to do that anymore. Do me, too. My head spun, and I stared at her, wide-eyed. What? She was looking at her hands. I want him to erase it from me too. I hate what I did. It's selfish of me, but I don't want to remember it anymore. I just want to move on, with you. I don't want to keep going like this. Me either. So, you're in agreement then? Grandpa looked between us. Sophia nodded, reaching over to take my hand. Yes. I confirmed. All right. I can only do one of you at a time. It's better if you don't see each other until afterwards too. I'll go first. Sophia stood. Maybe both of us were eager to forget this, literally. All right. Come with me. Grandpa led her out of the living room, I assumed, to the spare room. I leaned back on the sofa, waiting. I had no idea how long this would take. You're sure about this? Hugo asked. Yes. She's right, it is selfish. But maybe this is the best way. Maybe it is. Though I don't believe it's selfish. No. You are both agreeing to erase a painful memory that is still breaking you apart. It might be the easy way out, but I think the selfish thing would be to keep it, and hold on to it, treating each other badly because of it. Now, you can move on. There was truth in his words. I'd held on to this anger and hatred long enough. I was looking ahead, seeing a bright future with my mate. That's all I ever wanted. I waited about 20 more minutes before Grandpa came back out. I stood up but he gestured for me to sit again. Well. It's done. You should know that neither of you will remember finding out your mates. So when you see each other again, it will be like the first time. I smiled. That sounds good, actually. All right. Lay down, get comfortable. I did what he asked, looking up at him. Is it going to hurt? Perhaps a little, but it won't last long. Okay. Close your eyes. I felt him get closer to me, on his knees beside the sofa. He then placed his hands on my temples, and began to chant the spell. Till on Dio, till on Pala, till on Dio. Gasvan Ru Shen. He repeated the ancient language over and over. His fingers tips on my head suddenly began to feel warmer. At the same time, I felt a sharp tugging sensation from inside my head, and winced. Till on Dio. Try not to move, Garrett. He muttered. Sorry. He continued, and I grew more uncomfortable. My mind felt fuzzy, and also loud. It was as if Grandpa was pulling different memories to the doorface, and discarding them just as fast. It left me disoriented. Every so often I would feel that sharp pain, but I tried my best to stay still. After a while, I suddenly couldn't remember what I was doing. I'd come to Grandma and Grandpa's, but why again? Garrett. Opening my eyes, I found Grandpa kneeling next to me. What are you doing on the floor? I asked curiously. Just checking you. You fell asleep. I did? Sorry about that, Grandpa. Don't worry about it. How do you feel? I feel fine, why? He shrugged. I looked around, a little confused. Why did I come over again? Surely not just for a nap. He chuckled, placing his hand on my head. You came over bring some of your mom's special tea. Too bad you forgot it at home. Hey? Oh, right. How did I forget that? Oh. I'll bring it tomorrow for you guys. Thank you. I think you should get going home now though. All right. See you later, Grandpa. See you. The rest of the audiobooks will be uploaded in the next episode. Join us on Patreon to listen to more unlimited audiobooks.